Hallo, freunde, und willkommen. My name is Nate, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. So who doesn't like a good Fanta? I know my wife loves Fanta. I'm not a huge fan. I do drink Fanta once in a while. It's not my first choice, however. But I am talking about the German Fanta and not the Fanta here in the US, because the Fanta here isn't made the same. It's made completely different. I feel like it's a lot sweeter, a lot more sugary tasting, and the Fanta in Germany is more of a mellow flavor, if you will, a little more mild. I came across a video that piqued my interest, and I had no idea, based on the title, I had no idea that this actually happened, was a thing, but it is how World War II created one of the world's most popular soft drinks, and that would be Fanta. So I'm curious to see how World War II came into play with Fanta. I want to say I've heard about it a little bit, like just in passing or a headline, something. It sounds familiar, but I don't know much more than that. So let's just hop into the video and see how World War II created one of the world's most famous soft drinks.
Fanta is among the world's most popular and beloved soft drinks, being sold in over 188 countries and over 150 flavours, including lime, pineapple, elderflower, peach, apricot, watermelon, blackcurrant, and the most popular by far is, of course, orange. For over 75 years, the brand has dominated the soft drink market in countries...
That's the only one I really know about.
Germany, Spain, Italy, and Japan, only slightly underselling the absolute juggernaut that is Coca-Cola. But in 2015, the Coca-Cola company, who owns the Fanta brand, ignited a storm of controversy when it ran a television ad in celebration of Fanta's 75th anniversary. The ad, which retells the history of Fanta using stop-motion animated models, concludes with the words, "To celebrate, we are bringing back the feeling of the good old times with the new Fanta classic. Good like before, just today." The ad was met with horror, especially in Germany, for, as many critics were quick to point out, the so-called good old times of Fanta's creation just
probably not the smartest move.
Third Reich. For many, Fanta has since become inextricably linked with the Nazi regime, along with other such brands like Volkswagen, Hugo Boss, and IBM. And for more on that, please check out our previous video, the time the Nazis teamed up with IBM for mass murder. It's a truly crazy one, but are these allegations true?
I have to check that one out.
Fanta actually invented by the Nazis? Well, as with many things, the answer is, it's complicated. The story of Fanta begins with the story of Coca-Cola. Invented by Atlanta pharmacist John Pemberton in 1886 as a nerve and digestive tonic, by the early 1930s, Coca-Cola had come to dominate the domestic soft drink market, the company generating some 30 million gallons of the drink syrup and $40 million in sales per year. With the brands firmly established in the United States, Coca-Cola was keen to expand internationally, and one of its early success stories was the new National Socialist regime of the German Chancellor, Adolf Hitler. Through its German subsidiary, Coca-Cola GmbH, based in the city of Essen, the company strove hard to associate itself with the Nazi regime and win over the German people. Under the leadership of American-born CEO Ray Powers, Coca-Cola GmbH advertised in Nazi Party magazines, erected billboards at stadiums in Berlin and Nuremberg where party rallies were held, and sponsored the 1936 Berlin Olympics. In 1937, at the Reich Working People's Exhibition in Dusseldorf, a Coca-Cola photographer snapped a photograph of Reichsmarshal Hermann Goering and joined the company's product. The image was widely used in the company's advertising, much like a similar picture of Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev drinking Pepsi would be used 22 years later. For more on there, please check out our previous video. At that time, the Soviet general invented Clear Coke, and Pepsi had one of the world's largest navies. Yes, really. Coca-Cola GmbH also engaged in some rather...
This dude needs to slow down a bit. I'm having a hard time keeping up with everything he's talking about. But basically, the Nazis in Germany did not invent Fanta. It was invented previous, but then they enjoyed the drink and were caught with pictures enjoying the drink. So I think that's about it so far. Seriously, man.
More suspect advertising. Following Hitler's annexation of Austria in May 1938, Ray Power's right-hand man, German-born Max Kite, convenes the 9th Annual German Concessionaires Convention. The Coca-Cola Company displayed a giant banner bearing 3 prominent swastikas, and when Hitler annexed the Czech Sudetenland in October of that year, Kite ran a magazine ad showing a hand holding a bottle of Coke over a map of Europe with the slogan, "Yes, we have an international reputation." These campaigns proved incredibly successful, and by 1939, Coca-Cola GmbH had 43 bottling plants and more than 600 distributors in Germany, and was selling more than 4.5 million cases of bottles per year. Even the Fuhrer himself is reported to be an avid Coke drinker, though unlike Goering, no photographic evidence of this survives. But, alas, these good times were not to last. As Hitler's thirst for conquest became increasingly apparent, country after country began to publicly condemn the Nazi regime. In response, Reichsmarshal Goering launched a campaign of economic self-sufficiency, banning or discouraging the import of a wide variety of foreign goods. Goering targeted Coca-Cola in particular after discovering that bottles of Coke sold in America bore Hebrew lettering indicating that the drink was kosher. As German Coca-Cola sales began to plummet, Powers and Kite accused their parent company of being run by Jewish board member Harold Hirsch and pressured American company president Robert Woodruff to fire him. When Woodruff refused, Kite then lobbied Goering for an exception to the import ban. However, following Hitler's declaration of war against the United States on December 11, 1941, the American government imposed a full-trade embargo against Germany. This not only severed communications between Coca-Cola GmbH and company headquarters in Atlanta, but cut off all supplies of vital syrup ingredients. Max Kite, who had taken over as CEO following the death of Ray Powers in 1938, contacted Robert Woodruff via neutral Switzerland and informed him that he would do everything in his power to keep the subsidiary afloat until the end of the war.
All right, so Germany wanted them to fire this guy because Coke had Hebrew lettering on the American bottles of Coca-Cola and claimed that it was run by a Jewish guy, and we all know the relationship between 1939-40 Germany and the Jewish population. So then that created this whole other thing when the U.S. became part of the war, that trade embargoes and all this other stuff started happening. This guy really needs to slow down. I'm trying to keep up. I might have to watch this one like 3 times just to. I've seen other videos from him, and this is his normal speed. I think it's just a lot of information coming at you really fast.
No longer able to produce the company's flagship product, Kite asked his chief chemist, Dr. Wolfgang Scheitelig, to come up with an alternative drink using only ingredients readily available in Germany. Scheitelig blended together various industrial byproducts, including whey from cheese making, apple pressings from cider production, and whatever surplus citrus fruit could be sourced from fascist ally Italy, to produce a clear, slightly bitter, yet surprisingly refreshing concoction. In an incident that has become legendary in advertising circles, when Kite asked his marketing department to come up with a name for the new drink, he encouraged them to use their imaginations, or fantasy, in German. In response, veteran salesman Joseph Knipp immediately blurted out, "Fanta," and an was born.
Now that's interesting. Fantasy, Fanta. All right. So, didn't at the beginning they said that Fanta was... Maybe I misunderstood the beginning of the video. So apparently, because of the war and Coca-Cola being in the mix of everything, Germany decided to create their own version with ingredients found in Germany, or like you said, from their allies, Italy, and then Fanta was born. Fantasy.
Fanta was an immediate success in wartime Germany, selling nearly 3 million cases in 1943 alone and allowing Coca-Cola GmbH to continue operating at a near pre-war capacity. At first, the drink was sweetened using the artificial sweetener saccharin, but in 1941, the government allowed the use of 3.5% beet sugar. This led to Fanta being widely used by German housewives as an alternative source of highly rationed sugar for sweetening soups, stews, and desserts.
Huh. So it's kind of like a simple syrup then. With using it as an ingredient in other food.
Meanwhile, Max Keith fought off numerous attempts by the Nazi regime to take over and nationalise Coca-Cola GmbH, even taking a bureaucratic position in the Office of Foreign Property to keep the company out of the government's hands. All the while, Coca-Cola headquarters in Atlanta had no idea whether Kite was working for them or for the Nazis. When Germany surrendered in May 1945, they were surprised to discover that Kite had kept the company's factories and labour force intact, allowing Coca-Cola production in Germany to resume almost immediately. Kite even handed over all the subsidiaries' wartime profits to the parent company, as well as the recipe Fanta. However, Coca-Cola saw no further need to market what they viewed as a cheap wartime expedient and immediately discontinued the brand. But by the early 1950s, Coca-Cola was facing major competition from its main rival, PepsiCo, and in a bid to diversify its product line, the company resurrected the Fanta brand in 1954. This new Fanta was developed in Naples, Italy, and based on locally sourced oranges rather than apples, as in the original Nazi-era formulation. Packaged in a distinctive ring-necked bottle created by the legendary industrial designer Raymond Loewy, Orange Fanta hit the European market in 1955 and proved to be a massive hit. Sales soon expanded to Africa, Asia, and Latin America. By the 1960s, Fanta was being bottled in 36 countries, often in unusual flavours. And like Pepsi and Coke before it, Fanta also managed to penetrate into the communist bloc, reaching the Soviet Union in 1979 and China in 1984. But the one market Fanta seemed to fail to conquer was the United States. This was a deliberate policy on the part of Coca-Cola, who refused to market Fanta domestically for fear it would cut into strong sales of its flagship products. Fanta thus limped along in the United States until the mid-1980s, when Coca-Cola discontinued the brand domestically altogether.
It's interesting to look back and to think that they said no to arguably one of the world's most popular soft drinks in Fanta, because they thought it would take away from the sales of their flagship drink, Coca-Cola. And now look at where Fanta is.
It was not until 2001 that Fanta was relaunched in the US, and with a concerted marketing
2001.
quickly grew from negligible sales to its current place in the top 10 most popular American soft drinks. Now all of this brings us back to our original question. Was Fanta created by the Nazis? And the answer appears to be, well, no, not really. While the Nazis were responsible for the ingredients shortage that directly inspired the creation of Fanta, from the beginning to end, the production and distribution of the drink was an entirely private affair, conceived by Max Kite as a means of keeping Coca-Cola GmbH afloat and saving his workforce from military conscription. And though he prominently displayed Nazi symbols at company events and publicly celebrated Adolf Hitler's 50th birthday in 1939, Kite himself refused to join the Nazi Party, allow his company to be nationalised, or even pocket his factory's profits for himself, despite immense government pressure to do so. In 1945, a government official even threatened Kite with charges of treason if he did not hand over the company, but the official was killed in an air raid before any charges could be laid. For this reason, while Coca-Cola quickly pulled its controversial 2015 ad, a spokesperson was quick to assure consumers the 75-year-old brand had no association with Hitler or the Nazi Party. We wanted to remind our consumers of their childhoods. For example, the design we used of the classic annulated bottles comes from the 1960s. This is not to say, however, that Max Kite Coca-Cola GmbH did not engage in unethical practices during the war. Throughout the conflict, some 9 million Zwangsarbeiter, or forced foreign labourers captured from conquered territories, were used by the Nazi regime in a wide variety of industries, accounting for nearly a fifth of the German labour force by 1944. Though records are spotty, according to Mark Pendergast, author of For God, Country and Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola GmbH was almost certainly among these companies. Quote, later in the war, Kite used Chinese labour and people who would come from anywhere in Europe as the war brought them from everywhere. Confronted with such accusations over the years, the Coca-Cola company has paid millions of dollars into a compensation fund for those forced to work in German industry during the war. Then there is the matter of Robert Woodruff and the Coca-Cola company continuing to do business with Nazi Germany right up until the 1941 embargo, when the war in Europe had already been raging for 2 years. As Pendergast points out, this phenomenon was far from unique to Coca-Cola. Some industrialists, like Henry Ford, were in fact Nazi sympathisers, while others, such as Walter Teagle of Standard Oil, avoided taking sides, but saw nothing wrong with doing business with the Nazis. Like his friend and hunting companion Teagle, Woodruff practiced expediency. So, in conclusion, go ahead and enjoy your mind with clear conscience. But always remember, history is complicated, and that such was the evil of the Nazi regime that not even the best of intentions could prevent it from tainting every single thing that it touched. So I really hope you found this video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thank you for watching.
All right, well, besides the fact that that dude spoke 1,000,000 miles a minute, that's pretty interesting information there. You know, you kind of have to give it to Kite to a little bit to refuse to give up the company to the government and to just try and continue the workforce. That might be a little strange as well, considering he just said 1/5 of the workforce were forced laborers. But to keep the company going, basically, so many companies just tried to profit from the war. Back then and present day, they see dollar signs whenever there's a world conflict or even a smaller conflict that doesn't involve the entire world. Dollar signs are prominent. My mind's going 1,000,000 miles a minute just from him talking and then thinking of all this stuff. But quite interesting to know the history of FANTA. I've known about it, obviously, since I was in Germany. I didn't realize it took until 2001 for it to actually come to the United States. At that point, I was still in Germany, so I don't know what happened over here in the United States. But I will continue to enjoy FANTA whenever I can. Not here in the US. I'll have to wait until I go back to Germany to have the good stuff. I know my wife will. And this brings me, I was thinking a little bit during this that I'm going to have to do a little bit of research to see if there's any videos out there. But I'd really like to do a reaction on Adidas, and Puma. Because if you didn't know, they were brothers. He created Adidas, and it goes back to the Nazi regime on why they split, and his brother, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, created Puma, and Adidas still had Adidas. So I would love to react to something like that. My wife and I were talking about it the other day when we were shoe shopping, because I love Adidas. And it still sounds weird to me to say it. The U.S. pronunciation is Adidas. I try as much as possible to pronounce words as close to the original pronunciation as I can. Adidas is the real pronunciation. For many Americans, it's going to sound stupid, but sorry, that's the way it goes. So I'd like to find something like that. So, good video. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the bell icon and like the video. It really does help me out. I appreciate it very much. And until next time, I will catch you later. Bye.